Are you listening to Luke Bryant? Is that Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye?
Guy the other day said I must be crazy. Thing is, I've thought of this for a while. I think I might be.
Hey guys, we're back breaking down another episode of True Detective Season 3. This is Episode 2, Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye.
Now make sure to keep it here to GameSpot Universe because we're breaking down the entire season, all 8 episodes. And again, spoiler alert, so make sure you watch this episode first, then come on back here.
Go watch it. Go watch it.
Okay, let's get right into it. Let's start with the title itself, Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye. I just think of all the true crime and Kiss the Girls, anything like that. I'm like, okay, where are we going with this?
Yeah, Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, a classic noir book by Horace McCoy, which was later made into a movie. And the idea here, I think, in the context here is that, it has to do with time and memory. And someone that's suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, the idea of kissing tomorrow goodbye is very prevalent.
Yes. With all the conversations we have with Wayne and Henry, he keeps alluding to what subtle things like, I wish I could see this person again, or where is this person?
He's missing
Henry
pieces.
is having a rough time in this episode.
All right, so we start with the fallout from Wayne coming across Will's body.
Yes.
In the cave.
He's doing a little prayer. The autopsy comes back. He has a broken neck. Neck, and so it looks like someone obviously put him there.
So it seems like it would be someone much bigger than him, able to kind of overpower a small boy.
It's not going to be Julie.
Not someone his equal. I mean, she's still a suspect. We don't know anything, but it seemed like someone bigger than him would be able to break his neck and carry his body and place it into a cave.
Could be an accident, but there's still someone else who needs to pick up that body and place it there.
And that person probably linked to the person whoever put those dolls kind of, leading up to the body.
Of course. At the same time, what are they doing? They're testing for fingerprints on the bike.
Yeah. The bike was the only other piece of evidence that was left near the crime scene.
Which is a callback to other crimes that actually took place in the 80s. So I do like the little subtle nods. Now, who knows how many fingerprints are on that bike, but we definitely know there's one set on that bike, and that's Freddy's. He was with the bike earlier that same night. So, dude,
it's a
not
tricky
looking
thing.
good.
It's a tricky thing, though. I remember as a young kid, multiple people would borrow your bike.
I know.
When you go out riding into the neighborhood or wherever. So, someone grabbing the bike might not necessarily. It puts them in the location at the time as well. So it's very tricky.
That's bad.
Doesn't mean you're the killer, but yeah, we see him. So his fingerprints definitely on the bike itself.
Just to go back over it, you sure you didn't see anything?
I told you. I saw the teenagers out there too. I was going in the other direction.
Okay, let's talk about the interrogation scene with Brett Woodard. That is one of my favorite interrogation scenes. The dialogue is so good. The acting on this show is incredible so far. I'm really digging this.
Yeah, not even by the leads, just everyone. All the ancillary characters, very well acted. And he's basically like suspect number one, person of interest number one, just because, he's kind of an outsider. They don't know a lot about him, and he's kind of cast as this weird guy who just collects garbage, and he's damaged from the Vietnam War, of course, and it was very telling, the line that was uttered in this interrogation when Rowland West asked him about children.
You like kids generally?
What's the right answer to that?
I don't know what you're supposed to say other than that, because that looks like the correct response there. What do you want me to say?
It's a very leading question with bias. What's the right thing to say to somebody who says that? Now, we find out that he has kids himself, but he's kind of estranged from the kids.
Yeah, he doesn't know where they are.
He doesn't know where they are and is estranged from the mother. And it's a thing where he came back very damaged from the war, and he's kind of very in solitary by himself and just kind of trudging along in this day-to-day life.
Speaking about the Vietnam War, they again, another nod to that, and they bring up the 75th Infantry. Yeah. He brings that up. Again, that means Wayne, he's seen some shit. If this is all true,
even Woodard was impressed by.
He's like, whoa,
he was even impressed by what Wayne's been through.
So I think if we get some flashbacks to the Vietnam War, I think that's what Wayne's kind of like holding back in his memory the most.
You ever been someplace you couldn't leave? And you couldn't stay? Both at the same time?
that sums up so much of this episode. It sums up Wayne. It sums up Tom. You get pretty much an identical line from Tom in the car where he's crying. He wants to go to work. He doesn't want to stay at home. He can't go to sleep. But he also doesn't want to wake up. Great stuff, and it's also it just leaves like the pit of my stomach. Yeah, I'm because I can feel that.
No one is comfortable in any timeline, in any setting. You're never going to find comfort. He's trying to get in and out of remember his memories and get in and out of different sequences of his life, but he doesn't feel at home at any time.
Yeah, and again, back at the scene where Tom goes back to work, that felt so authentic, and the way everyone's just staring at him, and his boss comes over and grabs him. Hey,
you shouldn't be here.
Let's talk about this for a second. We put you on leave.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
With everything that's happening, it's a little disruptive. People have other things in their mind. These machines, that's how accidents happen. You know that, Tom.
I don't got nobody wants to be, huh?
Now let's talk about the community at large. They head to the West Finger Community Center, and the local politicians are going to, have a press conference talking about what happened and just kind of getting all the community up to date. And this is where you see the beginnings of fear,
chaos
instilled into the entire community, and everyone basically panicking. We talked about this last episode. The moral panic, the satanic panic of people kind of overreacting.
It's
and
happening.
Then a curfew set in place, and it becomes kind of quickly we find out that it'll become kind of like a ghost town.
Yeah.
People are scared to even let their kids go outside.
The school bus shot.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, very eerie. But I mean, you could understand that once you find out such a horrific thing happened in your own neighborhood, that you would do by anything you could to protect your kids.
And they have no idea who's behind it. So that's the big issue here. If the police were to say we know who did it, we think it's just one of these kids, then the parents are like, cool. But now they really think there's a monster over the town, and there's nothing they can do
And that's
got
to be one of the most horrific things, right? The uncertainty
Yes.
of who and what is going on, not knowing what you're looking for and what you'll find at the end.
This town is going to eat itself.
Now we get a little more context in the 2015 timeline. We find out kind of why Wayne has agreed to participate in this, True Criminal, season 3 of True Criminal, making a murder-style documentary. Supposedly, he feels that the producer, Elisa Montgomery, that she's
leading him on.
Maybe she has some new information that, she's learned through the online forums and through all the police work of what might have happened. And you can just get a sense that Wayne has never, stopped trying to figure out what went down.
But at the same time, this could be the dementia playing in his head a little bit. He may have already figured it out, and Henry's trying to get him just to stop. But I'm siding with Henry here. She's just leading him on. She's just leading him on as far as she can here. Now, she also mentions to Wayne about his daughter.
Yeah.
And it looks like their relationship's on the rocky side, to say the least. You could feel that throughout the entire episode, that something's wrong.
We get a few references to this, but we don't know exactly what happened yet. But it sounds like they had a falling out, perhaps. Seeing her dad deteriorate the way he has been, very traumatizing for her.
Could have been with something with Julie, where the case was just with girls, and the way he treated her compared to Henry might have had something to do with that, and it took a toll on him.
Yeah.
Something bad happened here.
And we also, she also reveals something happened between Julie and her dad, Tom Purcell, later on in this episode. So something happened in 1990 once Wayne got kind of brought back into the deposition to talk about the whole thing. Something happened with Tom Purcell and Julie that we don't know exactly. We don't know yet. So we know that Julie's back, at least with the fingerprints of her in the pharmacy.
Full match.
A full match. So we know that she's alive, but we don't know the context as to why she never returned home, or if there's a reason why she stayed away from her father, which hopefully in the next coming episodes we will find out.
Did she join some Devil's Rejects group? Who knows? We'll find out. Next up, Wayne and Rowland head over to Will's funeral, where we meet Dan O'Brien. Creepy Dan O'Brien.
Very, very creepy.
Yes, he's got that. I love they have the old creepy Joe Namath coat.
You stayed in the boy Will's room, right?
Man, told you I did.
Leave a couple of magazines behind. Under the mattress.
Damn, man, maybe I did.
Can we just say that he probably did something with Lucy here?
Obviously we don't have the evidence to convict him for
Not yet.
anything with the kids yet, but it definitely seems a little bit weird. He stayed there for 6 months, and
totally normal if he doesn't like the guy, if he just doesn't like him, but it seems like he's pointing the finger a little hard.
Yeah, and that one line that he said about that he always saw her with a stronger man.
I feel sorry for him. I felt for him even before all this. I mean, in my opinion, Lucy always needed like a strong male.
He has maybe some sort of like possessive feelings towards her, and it's just extremely unhealthy. And maybe he's not the murderer and the child kidnapper, but I don't like him. Let's put it that way.
So then we get a conversation with Tom's parents.
Yeah.
A quick one, but they give out one very big line.
There's been some wondering about Julie.
Not today.
Tom was working offshore. Could have been welding in Texas when Julie was conceived. Now I've wondered.
Damn it!
Yeah, obviously they're completely distraught, especially Tom's dad. Doesn't want to hear any of these rumors or conspiracies at what happens. Yeah, exactly. They're horrified of what has happened. But it does pique your interest that the couple's been having problems for so long. They only got married because they had a kid. We don't even know if it's Tom's kid. There's just a lot of uncertainty and what's the truth out of this marriage. I mean, the marriage was basically built on a bunch of lies, it sounds like. So,
I suspect this just goes into the kids' vision of their parents and everything. So this could be something, again, where the kids wanted to get their family back together and stage something, and it could have went terribly wrong.
Who knows if these rumors seeped into other parts of the family? The grandparents are talking about it. I don't know if there's
who knows? The
other
teachers
cousins,
could have found out. The neighbors probably know about
neighbors,
it.
and then it all spreads like wildfire, and then it comes back to the kids, and they react a certain way to it too. So, lots of disturbing elements in the family, like really close to the kids.
Okay, so we got a big evidence reveal here. In this episode, those dolls, those cornhusk dolls, or whatever they're going to call them on the show at some point.
Straw cornhusk.
Apparently they were handed out at Halloween. Julie's friend Mike recognized the dolls, so all right, here we go. Now those kids are coming back into play here too. Remember, everybody lies, so you just got to keep that in mind here, that someone could be leading someone else down the path they don't want to be going down.
Now Mike's able to help the authorities create like a map or like a route of where they went trick-or-treating and where the possibilities, all these different X's on this map of where it might be where she received the doll. And we also know that the person that was handing them out was wearing, or I think it was 2 people in ghost
outfits,
with ghost sheets on. A good disguise if you're trying to not, reveal yourself. No, it's extremely hard to track that down. But, there's 2 avenues of thought here. Is you go house to house, but then that's encroaching upon everyone's basic freedoms and their privacy, or you kind of just get people on alert and say, hey, neighborhood watch, let's all pay attention to what was going on.
Looks like they chose the wrong path.
They
apparently.
did, and it went against what Wayne and Rowland wanted to do, but the politicians and the mayor and the local government, they wanted everyone to know that, hey, there was contact with Julie. There's
an election year too, so they bring this up heavily, that a lot of things were driven to a point where they wanted to find somebody no matter who it was.
Right.
So it's not looking good for a few people.
And just
on the map.
show that they're cleaning up the place, they're getting it safe. But when in fact they're kind of instilling a ton more panic and turmoil into the community itself.
Now our investigation suggests that someone who saw her on Halloween has special knowledge of this case.
Giving it away.
So Rowland and Wayne are pretty pissed off at this point. And what did they do? They take it out, I think, on a pedophile or suspected pedophile. They kick his ass.
Yeah, like he checked off a couple boxes, but he's clearly not the suspect in this case. Yeah. But they wanted to rough him up, and they got a tip from someone on Vice, and hey, this guy has been talking about kids, and he has a couple strikes on his record.
How come he didn't bring that up to anybody else beyond me?
Yeah,
sure.
Didn't bring that up at all, and he had been working with children recently.
Why didn't they bring again?
Well, I don't know why that wasn't brought up, but he was kind of like laying low under the radar. But these 2 wanted to take some aggression out on him. Yeah. Now, one thing to note about the 1990 timeline, we talked about the falling out between Wayne and his
daughter.
Eventually with his daughter, and also between Julie and Tom Purcell. Something happens between them, but also Rowland and Wayne have a falling out. They're no longer partners.
We could see that coming, but it looks like something happens in the 80s, so we don't know. They're not going to get back together in the 90s, probably later on, if they do at all. But it looks like there's a huge falling out that takes place in the 80s, so who knows what happens.
Then we get another big piece of evidence, kind of like a ransom note. It's not really a ransom note, yeah, it's more of a letter.
Let's see. Okay, so the ransom note says, "Do not worry, Julie is in a good place and safe. The children should laugh, do not look, let go." Should as in S-H-U-D. So apparently they're trying to make you think it was the kid.
Yeah, it either is a kid or it's someone making you want to think it's a kid.
Yeah.
The grammar and spelling is all off, it's all over the place. But besides that, you really don't know what to expect.
There's
you
nowhere
don't
to go
know
with
if
that.
it's one person. You don't know if it's Julie herself that, killed her brother and then put together a note and try to get away from the family. But why would she get away from the family? What would be so horrific that she'd have to kill somebody and then, get away from the family? Or if she did survive and get away from them, maybe she's trying to reach back out. There's so many different possibilities.
This could be from anything too. This could be even just a fake note from someone else, just fucking with the family.
Totally.
Could be a neighbor who knows where they are.
Or yeah, anyone in the community that does not like the Purcells.
Yeah.
And they want to just instill more trauma to the Purcells and just drive them crazy. If Lucy did something wrong, or if Tom did something wrong to somebody, they just want to screw with them.
Yeah.
This would be the ideal way to do that.
And this is like when you're looking at real cases too, when someone goes missing, there's a murderer on the loose, and people call in and say, "I know this person."
A lot of fake hot tips.
Yeah, a lot of fake. So many hot tips. So we may see something like that occur in this show too.
Never read the whole thing. Couldn't stand I was in it so much. Going back over the story, it's good. Making me work my brain, leaving me to other stuff.
So episode 2 ends in 2015. Now we see Wayne looking at photos of his wife numerous times throughout the 2015 storyline. Now, obviously, he's missing his wife. He's mourning, and his dementia's kicked in a lot at this point in time. So we don't know where they're going with that, but it's heavily implying that something's up with Amelia here.
Yeah,
it's a huge clue.
There's a few things at play here. I think that. One, that she's such a significant part of his life, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
That, she kind of brings him back into re-remembering things that he previously forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Pieces of the puzzle that he has since said, he has said that, I forget parts about your mom to Henry. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like comparing it to, in Inception, the anchor. Everyone has their own little piece of something that kind of brings them back to that reality and makes them know that this is true. And I feel like Amelia, or the image of Amelia, he's always glancing at the book, he's always glancing at her photo. It triggers him to remember parts of his life that went missing in his own mind.
Well, yeah, what's the last thing we see on camera is he's looking at that photo, pushes in, and then bam, he's just straight up in the middle of nowhere.
He's in his PJs in the middle of Shoepick and Briarwood. And he's completely lost. You can see the expression all in his face. There's no dialogue at all. And
it's implied that something from Amelia that he thought of got him down there, but we don't know yet what that is.
Something occurred at this location, and we don't know. There's a good chance Amelia was involved in that spot, or the person that was wrongly convicted for this mystery was involved there. Now, one thing I noticed here is that this was the first time within one timeline that snap occurs. Mm-hmm. Normally we see Wayne, he's snapping to and from a different timeline, say the 80s to the 90s, 90s to 2015. He's looking at a photo in 2015 and snapping to another incoherent place in 2015, meaning
hours later.
Right, hours later, hours in the past, days later, days in the past, we don't know.
Remember when we talked about Westworld and Bernard and that whole thing? Again, we don't know. What if he snaps again in the 90s?
Right.
We have another one of those moments. So that's the only thing I'm worried about here. If they do that, they continue to jump around like that.
I think it just goes to show that literally he's losing memories, and his memory is deteriorating. Even at a more progressive rate, maybe in 2015, and that
it's just getting a lot worse at this point of his age.
Okay, so I decided, oh shit, buddy, I gotta dig a little deeper. There's no Pepe Silvia, you gotta be kidding me! I got boxes full of Pepe!
Time now for a little bit deeper dive. Things we noticed. We call it the Pepe Silvia segment.
Ah, yes.
We have this one big question: is season 1 and season 3 connected? Do they share a universe?
I think they all do. I think season 2 too, you can add in there. They may have elements that are very much connected together, and I think they are all in the same universe.
Yeah, because we got
the
first major kind of little Easter egg, so to speak, when Elisa Montgomery was interviewing Hays. She talks about the online community that's devoted to true crime, trying to solve these murder mysteries on their own. And she rattles off a couple other cases that make kind of similar, that share similarities with the Purcells. And she mentions specifically the, quote, crooked spiral iconography, which obviously is
from season 1.
Big time in season 1. And she talks about all these pedophile rings and with high-profile people. And she says that obviously she wonders if the dolls and this specific mystery is part of some much bigger thing.
Again, we're talking Yellow King kind of vibe here. They may put elements of that in here, but I feel like maybe that's just an Easter egg. That could just be nothing more than an Easter egg.
I think it's just a playful Easter egg, but I did like the mention of it.
Yes.
It makes it feel like it's one big universe. And Hays, he kind of downplayed the whole thing and said, no, there's no way that it's not you're kind of thinking a little bit too big. The whole idea, online communities, obviously a lot of things kind of, the momentum builds for these kind of extraordinary conspiracies, so you can see that it can get out of control easily.
Is this the writers trying to do a little Reddit hit here? This is
They're
Reddit.
Just driving us crazy, making us look through Reddit, totally. She also mentions the Franklin scandal, and that the straw dolls are a sign of these, pedophile rings. The Franklin scandal actually involved the Franklin Community Credit Union, and after that went under, there were allegations that the money was used in financing child prostitution and drug trafficking, and a federal grand jury actually found this claim to be false, and it kind of discredited the whole hoax as a hoax. So there is some basis in the real world as to kind of the crimes of this nature. But I think I'm going with Hays in the fact that it's probably a much simpler explanation, and it's not some vast conspiracy that the online community's kind of created.
Yeah,
they're making a joke at Reddit, basically.
Yeah. Also, there's some similarities with the religious overtones they have this season with Will, his hands clasped together.
In a praying position. Yeah.
Yes, and then what was it in season 1, the first murder? They're kneeling, praying. So,
Dora is kind of tied up against the tree, and she's in a kneeling prayer position. Yeah. So definitely the connection between how both these murders occurred.
Okay, let's talk about Shoepick and Briarwood. Let's see, why was he there? Why was he there at that time of the night?
This was a big, it's a big cliffhanger at the end of this episode, and when I initially watched it, I was like, where the hell am I? What's the significance of this place? Was that the house where the Purcells lived? Is that, where Wayne used to live? I had no idea. And then we looked back at the map.
And what is one of the spots that's circled down there?
Yes, that Halloween route, the trick-or-treat route where the dolls were passed out. There's an X directly on that corner of the street. Someone lived in a house on that street where now it's a vacated lot, where either they found the wrong person there and some big shootout went down and some horrific stuff happened that would cause Wayne to leave the force. Obviously, it still haunts Wayne. Have you left the office at all?
Yes, I have.
You went home to see your wife finally?
Yes.
And?
She left me.
Back here with Whodunit? Let's look at the evidence.
Okay, let's get right into it. Let's start with Will. All right, Will Purcell, blunt force trauma, cervical fracture.
Yep.
All right, someone broke his neck and brought him to the cave. They left those dolls out there. They put his hands together, and then Julie Purcell, her fingerprints came up 10 years later.
Right, and then we got a note.
Make you think it's the kid, or at least put you on that route. We'll see how that goes, though.
All right, let's talk about suspects. Let's run it down. First suspect, number 1. This fox, what do you think?
Let's keep him on the list.
Too small to... Really?
Keep him on the list.
Brett Woodard.
Shit's not good for him right now when
Not
it comes
good.
to just the town itself.
Right.
I think more, if we're looking at something with the town probably turning on that man sooner rather than later than the police will. We'll see.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
Damaged war veteran. Don't think he's guilty. New suspect added to the list, Dan O'Brien, the creepy cousin of Lucy's.
They should arrest him just for that coat.
Creepy cousin with the creepy coat, guilty as charged in my book. Let's keep an eye on this guy because if he didn't do anything with the kids, or we don't have enough evidence to prove that, but something weird is going on with him and his relationship with his cousin Lucy.
Yes, and now the mom throws in the theory that the kid might not be Tom's, Julie. That makes you wonder, is that the father?
The Purple VW boys.
I suspect, I'm getting the feeling that they're the ones who probably go to jail. Someone in that group is probably going to jail. Maybe Freddie. The way he was grabbing the other kid was Ryan.
During lunch or recess?
Yeah.
Out in the, yeah.
I would assume it's because they screwed up their story.
Right, they're not sticking to the same story.
Yeah.
They're kind of, we're kind of breaking them down a little bit.
Remember, his fingerprints are all over that bike. That's not good, dude. The kid winds up dead and your fingerprints are all over that bike and the last one's on there. That's not good for you, no matter what.
Sounds good. How about the Purcells? We got Tom and Lucy. We've suspected their intentions might not be 100% genuine, but what do we think?
So this is the, I call it the Dick Wolf theory, that the parents, one of the parents may have just tried to set this up as like a ransom kidnapping, and something went terribly wrong in this process. You can look at the dad for that the most, though, because he was certain that the kids were still out there.
Right.
And they weren't at the house, and he kind of, it just felt like he knows more than he's letting the detectives know. But I really think there's a third party here with the parents. They just look too distraught to really do it themselves.
Yeah, great coffee, by the way. Thank you. Thank you, appreciate that.
No problem, there's nothing in that.
Another new, how do you know? Another new suspect added to the list, Amelia. Do we think that Wayne's future wife is responsible for something so horrific?
I mean, all the signs point to her, to be honest with you. I think...
Conspiracy theory alert.
Yes. The filmmakers, maybe... This is a little bit of a misdirection, I think, with her character. There's so many clues pointing towards her right now. She's involved so much in this case.
She's very fascinated with the case.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit too much.
On top of that, you got the scene in the bar where she brings up her... she wanted to be someone else, a different personality. She was someone else entirely different.
Yeah.
That just set off a few red flags for people. Listen, I don't think she's the killer, but I really think they're trying to lead you down that path right now.
Or maybe she likes to role play. And another new face on our suspect list. This is Alyssa Montgomery.
Yeah.
She is behind the the Making a Murderer style docu-series called True Criminal. She's interviewing Wayne.
They would never do this, but you can say, like, people are thinking, is it Julie? Is she actually Julie? But the age, it does not match up. So the girl's 10, she would be in her 40s in 2015.
Right.
So that I don't.
Ridiculous, a little too young for that.
A little too young, yeah.
And I'm really leaning towards, this is pretty obvious that we have not met the person yet. This is only 2 episodes in.
I think that, or the street he's at, if it involves the killer or anybody involved in there, we haven't met that person yet.
Now, perhaps is that person Julie's real father? The person responsible for this, you alluded to it earlier, that she might have a different father, that Tom Purcell is not her dad. Could that be a possibility, that her father came back, is pissed off at Lucy, and
snatched her?
Yeah, snatched her. Unfortunately, Will died in some sort of struggle, and that's kind of what we have here.
I wonder if there are a little bit more things going on here than one thing that leads to another, and there's like just a snowball effect that takes place. Like Will winds up out there by himself somehow and gets killed, doing something completely different. He gets separated from his sister, and she goes off on her different route altogether. We don't know. Yeah, that would be cool if there's more to this than just one person. I feel like we're going that way, but at the same time too, yeah, I agree. I do not think the killer was on screen at any point in the first 2 episodes. Also, when it comes to looking for the killer, I'm more excited about what happens to this town than I am trying to discover the mystery of Whodunit.
Right.
I'm more interested to figure out, how does this town eat itself alive in the 90s and 80s? I want to know what happens here.
Yeah, so you're just really excited for the downfall of a whole community, you're saying?
Hey, they're building it up pretty damn well right now. I just want to know that some chaos is about to go down in this town, and I'm more curious to see what happens there than I am to just reveal who's the killer. Yeah, because that's not, no matter what, it's going to be anticlimactic at this point.
Well, it's clear to me that we have a long ways to go to crack this case. That means overtime for us, both.
Okay, at least 6 more times we're going to have to
at
be
least
here in this room.
6 more. You'll get to be at work 6 more times in this room, and you should not go back home.
There's nothing waiting for me at home.
Yes, we've talked about this. I'm very sorry, but we have each other.
Okay, everyone, that's it for us over here. Now we will be back here on Tuesday next week for episode 3.
Make sure to leave any comments or any predictions and theories in the comment section below. We love to hear from you guys. And also hit that subscribe button because we're going to break down all 8 episodes this season.
Yes, and now we leave you with some words of wisdom from good old Frank.
Ah, Frank.
Maybe I should have gone to the airport.
Don't want to look hungry. Never do anything out of hunger. Not even eating.